Welcome to Foundation and Family, the Erica Diaz Show, where real estate wisdom meets family life. I'm Erica Diaz, here to share stories, insights, and inspiration for building homes and nurturing hearts. Let's dive in together. Hey everybody, I'm Erica Diaz with Foundation and Family, and today's topic is pad splitting. Have you even heard of pad split? Because I hadn't until very recently. So we're going to dive in with Arianna from Pad Split and David Buckles, a local investor, and we're going to explain what pad split is. So who wants to start?
Let the pad split guy go first.
Let's do this.
Arianna, tell me what it is.
Thank you for having us, first and foremost.
So you're so welcome.
Pad Split is a co-living marketplace, just like any other platform that is out there for investors. We are focusing on creating affordable housing with existing space in your property and maximizing it by converting those common spaces into additional bedrooms to create additional revenue.
So for the average person out there, we are creating a single family home that has multiple bedrooms, and it'll be similar to an Airbnb style, but a long-term rental of a bedroom.
We're a hybrid between a midterm and a long-term rental.
Okay.
Right? And we're catering towards individuals that are really not able to afford a rent or even buy.
Okay.
They're not getting an increase in their wages, and interest rates are continuously getting higher, so they're kind of being priced out of the market.
Okay, now, hold on. I hate to be the stickler, but at the moment, interest rates are actually cruising down.
Yeah, they are.
But that still doesn't really impact the affordability because the purchase price down here in Florida, at least, has tripled, if not, I mean, it definitely doubled, but it almost tripled in the last couple of years. So tell me a little bit about how you play into this pad split game.
Funny enough, one of the people on our team, his name's Joe. Joe was like, "Hey man, I was at this meetup down in Tampa, and there's this interesting concept. Like you gotta learn more about it." I'm like, "Well, you gotta tell me more about it." He's like, I don't really know how. All I know is like you make more money renting the house by the room than the house." And I was like, "Well, I'm interested. Tell me more." So Joe set up an introduction. Ray and Arianna came to the office, and we just I was sold hook, line, and sinker because I see, oh wow, there's an affordability issue, and there's an opportunity to make 3-4 times the amount of revenue from a traditional rental as opposed to just like a normal rented out by the house.
That's huge for investors.
Correct, especially with the high interest rate market.
So you and I, that's how I even learned about pad split, right? We just did a transaction. I had a home that was not in an HOA. It was, 2,200 square feet maybe?
Yep, just about.
And it was currently 3 bedrooms, but has a very large garage, has an oversized living room. And when I asked you, what are you going to do with it? You said, well, I'm going to pad split it. And I said, what does that mean?
Right.
And you said, well, I'm going to put 6 bedrooms in it. And I was like, where? And you said, in the living room and in the garage. And I said, okay, for what? And then you were like, well, I'm going to rent it by the room. So how does a consumer locate pad split to be able to apply and rent? How does that
So
look?
since we're a double-sided marketplace, we're working with the investors, showing them how to maximize their returns, and we're catering towards the members that are looking for those housing. So we are doing SEOs, Google advertisements, social media platforms, over 60 different rental listings as well. And that's how we're getting those individuals interested, right?
So you're just advertising like anybody else for pad split, but then the consumer, what are they Googling? What are they searching? Room for rent? What are they looking for?
Literally room for rent.
Room for rent.
Yeah. So they go to padsplit.com. They're going to see what's available. Padsplit is going to vet them. We're going to do a background check,
That's probably my favorite part. If I can interject.
Yeah.
That's what does a lot of the heavy lifting for me as the investor. So they screen the tenant, they verify the income, they verify the jobs. So that way when someone books a room, and I look at and say, oh, room 1 is being booked by, Mr. Smith over here. Well, they can show me Mr. Smith's credentials and say he qualifies for no credit score, but he qualifies for this much per week. He has no evictions on his record. So you get a little bit of an about the tenant.
We don't disqualify based on credit score. We do check it, but we don't disqualify it.
Oh, so that's huge for someone, let's say, maybe going through a divorce, because in my business portfolio right now, unfortunately, we are seeing that a lot, and it is kind of contentious, and sometimes credit gets destroyed through that, whether it's one spouse not paying the bills, but you know that you're going in two separate directions. And then there's this affordability because now there's alimony and child support and all this other stuff. So that is huge that you're not discrediting for credit. But something just like totally popped in my mind because I deal with divorces, I deal with families separating, but they have pets. So are pets allowed at a pad split?
Only service animals.
Only service animals.
Correct. No pets.
No pets. Okay. I mean, I get it, right? Because you're going to rent to 5-6 different individuals.
That's right.
And then if someone's allergic, that could be, very problematic. Yeah. So no pets, but service animals because I guess you can't discriminate against certain animals.
You can't discriminate, yeah.
Okay.
They do need to provide all documentation for the service animal, so it needs to be legal, not just a vest from Amazon.
Right. Right. Yes. All too familiar with that, let me tell you. So then, okay, the consumer, Google's room for rent. How many current pad splits are in Central Florida right now?
So Central Florida has over 400 units. Now, for us...
Wait. There's already 400 units in existence here in Central Florida?
That are active in our platform.
Clarify units versus houses.
Correct. I was just going to say that. So for us...
400.
So for us, units or KPIs are based on room counts.
Okay.
So for us, 400 units means 400 bedrooms.
Okay.
Correct, because every single property will have a different bedroom count.
Sure.
I personally own 47 doors with the platform. So my biggest house has 8 bedrooms. And I have 3 properties with 8 bedroom counts.
Now, all 8 of those are not in an HOA?
No HOAs. We choose not to work with HOAs.
Right. I mean, a lot of people do.
We strongly advise against HOAs, period.
Right. So, okay, you personally own 47 doors.
Correct.
And when we're talking doors, like you specified, we're talking bedrooms. Okay. What's your occupancy rate right now?
My account is at 84% occupancy.
I mean, that's high for this new concept.
That's very high.
That is very high. So is this property that we just did, is this your first pad split?
No, so this will be pad split number 6.
Number 6.
And that we loaded in the portfolio.
He's rolling.
So we have 1 active, 1 coming online next week, and then we have 3 more that are under construction, and then we just purchased 1 more that will close on in January. So we have a total of 7 that we've added to the portfolio, and then our average door count's like about 5.5 per room. So we're going to have around 36, 37 doors with our 7 houses.
Wow, pretty awesome.
Wow, that's incredible.
So Pad Split was founded in Atlanta.
Yeah,
in 2017.
Okay, let's talk about that. What does the Atlanta market look like today? When it was founded in 2017, what does that look like? Is there really a need? Is there a demand? Are you seeing that in Atlanta?
Yeah, so our Atlanta is our strongest and most established market, of course. We have over 5,000 units.
Wow.
That's significantly large, right?
Right.
In order for us to hit demand in Atlanta, we need about 20,000 units.
Okay.
We are
in Orlando.
No, that's Atlanta.
Oh, in Atlanta.
That's Atlanta. That's 1/4 away.
Okay.
Right. Orlando, we opened Orlando about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
So we're just starting to scratch the surface here in Central Florida, call it. Not just Orlando, but Central Florida, right? Because I feel like we cannot coexist without all the other counties around us.
So, but let's talk about, I need to rent a room. Mm-hmm. What's the shortest amount of time that I can rent that room?
So you're committed to the platform for a month and a day.
A month and a day. Okay. Not that big a deal.
Right. So we are flexible on the commitment, and you can move in as fast as 2 days.
How many heartbeats can be in a bedroom?
1.
What about like a husband and wife that just need a...
We are not catering towards couples or kids or anything of that nature. Just 1 person per room.
Okay. Now, what about the late night calls?
So luckily, I haven't had too many late night calls. I have had some of those like eye roll calls, you know.
I'm talking about like you've got a tenant in place and a late night call happens in that moment.
Oh,
like
that kind of
late night call.
Hey, listen, I mean, if people are going to have relationships, right?
Yeah.
You know, as long as in my mind, as long as there's no disruptions to the other members. Mind your business, keep to yourself.
So you're not in prison here.
No, come on. This is a place. Everyone needs a place to live.
Okay.
Everyone needs a place to call home, and that's what we're doing. That's what I mean. We furnish it. Like I think you guys do TVs. We put TVs in all of our units.
Oh, so the bedrooms are furnished.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're fully furnished. Bring your bag. get some fresh sheets from the local store, and then come call it home.
Oh, utilities
Now,
included.
If a husband and a wife were in a predicament where they wanted, or a husband, or a wife, whatever the case may be, could they rent 2 rooms in the same
Of
house?
course. Yeah, they can. As long as they're approved by PASMA, they're able to do that.
Okay. Just, I'm thinking like this could be.
Someone's always trying to skirt the system.
No, I'm not.
But it's a
like,
great
Erica.
question.
But
because
really, like
but
if
it's
you
real.
are
Yeah.
in a gap where your house sold, I'm thinking from my own perspective, how can I leverage this? Like,
We've had a father and daughter, like those type of situations where they would end up renting separate rooms.
Right.
But it's still a lot more cost efficient for them to
Sure.
do that
Yeah.
than choosing to rent an apartment.
correct. And if you're going into like a short-term rental at an apartment complex, there's a premium on that.
Correct.
And it's hard. So I'm just
Deposits.
thinking, how do I leverage pad split for my business model if we're selling something and we're not ready to get into something else for 3 months? You know, it may not be the only option, but it is an option, right?
For example, something that I was just chatting with these guys about is 2 of the houses that we have, I'm taking the garage and I'm converting them into an entire studio apartment.
Yeah.
So that is something that can also be brought onto the pad split platform or can be kept off. Because of the relationships within the real estate industry, I see a niche there to kind of cater to what you're talking about with. If I have separate studios that are available throughout town and you have someone who needs a place for 1 month, 2 months,
Right.
I can have the freedom to allow a husband and a wife, a
Right.
mom and a daughter in the same unit.
Right.
So that's something that we do have our eyes on, something that we'll probably grow into.
Okay, so tell me about bathrooms. Like, you don't have 6 bathrooms in this 6-bedroom house, do you?
No.
Okay.
Some of us are getting creative. I did something pretty creative that I've tried to emulate in some of the others, but in our first pad split, I basically took the entire center of the home,
Okay.
and this was a 2-bedroom house with a detached unit, and I turned it into a 3-bedroom house. And so
Okay.
there's 4 total units, 1 detached private. So all 3 of the bedrooms in this house, I ripped out the center and made the entire center the restroom. So on the far left, it's a water closet. So you walk into this whole
Okay.
alley, and there's a private restroom to the left.
It's so freaking cool.
Then it's almost like a public restroom, if you will. There's 3 vanities
Okay.
that have medicine cabinets in their own vanities. So part of the move-in instructions are, hey, when you move in, claim your vanity.
Right.
So you can put your toothbrush, your deodorant, all your stuff,
Right.
right? And then on this side, there's a shower closet, like a shower room. So
Right.
you can
Be in the bathroom,
you
but
can
not
shit,
be
shower,
in.
and shave at the same
Yes.
time with all the tenants. And
All 3 at the
Exactly.
same time. Man, that's getting cozy. But you know what?
So it is shared.
just made me think of, this isn't a new concept. Didn't everyone go to college?
Absolutely.
I mean, where did you live?
Yeah.
So there were 2 bedrooms and a communal bathroom. And then there were 2 bedrooms and a communal bathroom. And so it was 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. So same concept. It's just for adults instead of adult children who are in college.
Professional adults.
Right.
Yeah. So, which helps with the affordability issue that we're seeing in our marketplace right now, because that's huge. People are wondering, like, where do I live? You know, how do I afford this? And so, who's cleaning? Because we're as you said, showering and shaving. I'm not cleaning after anybody else's S and S. No, not doing it. So, who's cleaning?
The host is cleaning common areas.
Host meaning you?
The owners of the properties.
Are responsible. That doesn't mean the hosts are actually getting in there and wiping down.
Okay, so you're hiring cleaners.
Correct. Just like short-term rental space.
Okay,
You're going to
just
send
like-
somebody just to clean the
How
common spaces.
often?
So I've got someone on rotation once a month.
I do this twice a month.
Okay,
It's at
I'm
the
renting
owner's,
hers over yours.
It's
I want
at the
twice
owner's
a month.
discretion. He has less units,
Got it.
right? I have 8
Yeah, I have 4
individuals.
people in one house, or 3
Three,
people
really,
in one house
versus
as
8.
Correct.
So, and you're going to notice that you're going to find some members that will be okay with cleaning because they
Oh.
want to keep their space
Right.
nice.
That
So
makes
they
sense.
don't mind not cleaning.
And
Right.
you can probably attest to this too, but when people book your room, they want to send a little blurb, hey, I'm super neat and this and that and the other thing.
Right.
And so they also kind of like tell on themselves if they're not neat. You can be like, hey man, you said you were super neat. Can you
Yeah.
help me tidy the
What's
house
happening?
because room 2 said you're not very tidy.
Right.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
they will tell on each other.
So
Oh, yeah.
Keeping each other accountable.
I
sure.
bet they do. But let's talk about the kitchen. Like,
Okay.
how does the fridge work? Can they put a little mini fridge in their room, or do you like claim the stove when you want to cook, or do you find more like Uber Eatsing happening there?
A little bit of both. They're adults. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. But you're going to notice that they're going to eat a lot outside.
Yeah,
Right.
which
So
is fine.
Tons of like eating at the job or things like that, or, to-go containers. So you're going to dispose a lot more garbage because of the volume that will.
That's not something I would have even thought of.
So maybe more garbage cans in your house. That would be really helpful. Some hosts have decided to like label every shelf of the fridge and even
Like
the
room
kitchen.
1, room 2, room 3.
To not fight. But like a house like David, I don't think they'll find that much of a conflict between them. You know, it's a very ample space house where they're not going to fight necessarily for the space in the kitchen. Now, some hosts also do mini fridges in the rooms.
Okay.
I think that's great. And maybe not too great if you don't have a member that's too clean.
Well, I'm sure everybody's going to get a dirty member once in a while. Think about Airbnbs. We've got portfolio owners, and as we were building out these portfolios, you would walk into some of them on checkout day, and you would think, what did you do? And then other ones you would walk out on checkout day and it was like, okay, like someone stayed here, but like the dishes are in the dishwasher. Like they were respectful of other people's property. So I think no matter what you do, I mean, I had roommates in college and I had both, so no matter what you do, you're going to have both ends of the spectrum. So how did you get into pad splitting?
Well, I actually come from a hedge fund acquisition background.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, that was crazy. But besides that, pad split came to...
Well, and let me stop you really quick, because we're talking about the average consumer out there that I understand what a hedge fund acquisition is, but can you break that down for the average consumer, what that is? Because it makes sense how you got there from there, but they probably don't get that.
Right. So I was actually acquiring for a large hedge fund here in Central Florida. They were purchasing mainly single-family homes.
Right.
We were closing about 500 transactions a month.
That's a lot.
That was a lot. We probably drive the prices up naturally. So, it is what it is. But Patswood came to my husband's table and to mine as well. Very mission and vision oriented for us.
Right.
Versus kind of what I was doing previously. And it just clicked. We were going to invest into short-term rental space.
Yeah. So Airbnbs.
Correct. And this was just like, what? Absolutely. This makes all the sense in the world. This is kind of how we're heading as a society.
And I mean, Airbnbs can be very lucrative and profitable, but they do have high turnover. So
they do.
Anything with high reward usually has high risk. That's usually how that works. So maybe this is a little bit lower risk because you're getting a little more stable income that's more guaranteed because it's a month, right? Or it's a minimum of a month.
So it's with the platform, but yes, you're right. I consider pad split or co-living, because that's the
co-living
strategy that it is a more recession-proof strategy.
Right.
Right. Versus short-term rental space that, disposable income is the first thing to be tied and, kind of be a little more limited. But that's how, as an investor, I like this strategy so much.
Right.
Because it's more recession-proof.
Huh. So how did you, we know how you ended up into it. Your colleague said, let's pad split.
Met Ray and Arianna, and again, I just, seeing where the direction of everything was going, it made sense for me.
So what are the target goals for Central Florida? And then before we get into that, actually, I feel like some people are going to hate this, and then some people are going to love it. And it depends on, what end of the spectrum you're on, right?
When you say some people, do you mean like neighbors? Do you mean members?
Your neighbor?
All of the above, because neighbors, they're going to hate it. Some of them are going to hate it, right? Because they're going to have high turnover. It's almost like a group home where there's people coming in and out. You've got 6-8 bedrooms, whereas somebody had a family there maybe before and now they don't. Or the general public thinks that there's an issue with Airbnbs being gobbled up or investors gobbling up and not allowing there to be inventory for primary residents anymore because hedge funds are driving up prices. So the average buyer out there probably isn't going to be too excited about this. So how do you handle that?
Can I chime in? Okay,
Yeah,
so
let's go for it.
There's a couple things, right? So let me ask you this. How many bedrooms do you have in your house right now?
Well, I don't think I'm a good model for that.
Well, just hear me out. Just play along. Humor me.
I think 6.
You have 6 bedrooms. How many kids do you have?
4.
Okay. How old are they? Or let's just say all the kids are driving age.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now there's how many vehicles at your house?
Can we pause that? My neighbors hate us.
Okay. But it's your family.
They are my family.
It's your family. And there's 4 cars that the kids are going to be
well,
driving.
there's 6 cars and then nanny, so 7 cars. It's a lot. It is. I know it.
So who's going to be able to say that's a family versus that's a rental? Or who's going to be able to say, like, you know what I mean? There's a couple different things there that, of course, when you see various people of ages, races, you know, backgrounds, whatever,
Right.
clearly that might not be a family. However,
But what defines a family? So who knows?
Correct. You know, 2023 is here, and there's a lot of question marks.
2024.
Yeah, 24 is here now. You're right.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that was, what was the second part of the question? Oh, the consumer prices.
Right.
I think with interest rates where they're at right now, the people who are buying houses are the people who can afford to buy houses,
Right.
who are going to stay put. A lot of speculative investors like myself, we're still buying good deals.
Right.
And I think, like, at the end of the day, the people who can afford to buy houses will continue to afford to buy houses. I don't
Yeah.
think, you know, my neighbor who can't afford to buy a house is going to be mad at me for going to buy another rental.
Right.
I just don't necessarily see that. I don't think the consumer is going to get mad at the everyday investor.
I can see that, and we're adding housing to people that cannot afford.
You are. You
So
are.
we're not taking it away. We're putting it back and repurposing it.
You are. And again, like you said, disposable income is one of the first things to go. So these owners of Airbnbs, if we go into a deeper recession, if you think we're in a recession, that whatever, that would be the first to lose income. And then owners don't have income, properties sit vacant. That's never a good thing for anybody, neighbors alike, HOAs, nothing. So you are bringing a solution to affordable housing. Right. So I think if we focus on that, it could be a really good thing. But I do think that, I mean, even on this podcast, we'll get some backlash. I mean, I get
I'm
backlash
sure.
on me posting.
I mean,
I like Christmas.
People don't like change.
Right.
You know, and this is a positive change. I think we're definitely going to be pushed back by some people, and then we're going to be embraced by a lot of the majority.
Right.
Because we're helping both. The investors that are not getting those returns any longer, we're currently seeing already a lot of those short-term rental investors transitioning into this space. And we're also helping those individuals. And again, they're just being priced out of the market.
So I know you're in Atlanta and you're in Central Florida. So where else are you, or you know where yet?
We're in 18 cities nationwide.
18 cities nationwide. So this is not that new.
No, we've been around since 2017.
Right. Okay. What are some of the other 18 cities?
We are in Houston, Dallas, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
We're in New Orleans. We are in Phoenix, Miami, Jacksonville, Tampa, Orlando.
Wow.
We have a couple pad splits in Washington. We have Richmond, Virginia, Petersburg, like just everywhere.
Wow.
Well, not everywhere, but we're growing.
That's incredible. So what's
Exponentially.
your favorite thing about Pad Split?
As an investor, the returns that I'm getting,
Sure. That's huge, right?
that is really big. And honestly, being able to help people that are just needing it.
Of course.
We've seen people stay at a passive for a couple months or maybe a year and transition into buying their house.
So
they were able
what
to
is
save
the
enough.
longest they can stay?
There's no limit, really.
There's no limit.
We've had people stay for 3 years.
Okay. And they've been happy and content.
Yeah, I mean they've stayed that longest because they are kind of adjusted and
They like it.
they like it.
So what's your favorite thing so far about Pad Split?
So as someone who fixed and flipped a lot of properties over the last few years, my favorite thing about the pad split is not having to deal with the sales process at this point.
Okay.
As you know, you've seen the last 3, 4, 5 months, like selling houses is a lot harder than
Yeah.
it was for the last few years.
Yeah.
And so with just the natural progression of where my, career, where I want the investing trajectory to go,
Right.
it's to cash flow. And so we did really well. We flipped a lot of houses, and so now we're deploying that cash into cash flow.
Right.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to stack the cash flow. The returns are, I think I've calculated roughly like 20% returns on my cash on cash. So
That's huge.
when you look at like where are you getting 20% returns regularly, it's like nowhere to be found.
Right. That's
and,
huge.
And so that's where we're putting our money to work, and that's all I can say. The
And
money's
building
good.
wealth with
Yeah.
And building wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which, again, I mean, I know that I have children. I know you have children. Do you have children?
Not yet.
Okay. So it.
They just got married. They
Oh,
just got married.
congratulations.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
So it is about building wealth. The podcast name is Foundation and Family, and how can we build wealth for generations to come?
Correct.
So this is something that you are doing for your daughter and other children, I imagine, to come. So it's huge. So if I have an investor that already has rentals and maybe they're not breaking even because taxes have gone up or insurance, we all know what's happening with insurance in Florida. How could they flip that model to a pad split model?
I mean, gosh, it's pretty simple. When I met Arianna and Ray, I was in the middle of flipping, and I found like, okay, we have 4 flips in the pipeline. I'm going to take this one, and that one, and make them a pad split.
Okay.
And I think for someone who already has an investment portfolio, they can look at, okay, what leases are coming up soon, and
Right.
okay, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. I can squeeze another 3 bedrooms in here.
In the garage or what have you.
Right, okay, and now we're getting, maybe $5,000 a month for that house instead of $2,500 a month.
It's huge. That's a
right?
big difference.
And so it could be literally as simple as closing in the dining room, closing in the living room, and then you've maximized cash flow at that one property.
So just because you said closing in the dining room, closing in the living room, I'm trying to picture this. Do you get a living room in these pad splits?
If there's enough space, like the house that we just closed on, like the living room is so big that there's going to be some space there that we have to do something with. But the existing dining room in that house, right off the kitchen, that'll be closed off into a bedroom.
Sure.
The living room up against the front window, that'll be closed. So
That could even be 2 bedrooms.
It could, see?
Yeah.
And so, like, you're picking up very quickly how, like, easy this can be done.
Right.
Because when you're talking about throwing up a few walls and like, adding an outlet or 2 here and there, like, this isn't an extensive renovation that needs to be done on a current portfolio.
Right.
But for someone who's fixing and flipping, it's easy to go, oh, instead of, making just a resale house, let me add 2 walls, and then boom, here we are again.
Now you're pad splitting. So tell me like the perfect profile of a house. So if we've got investors in the marketplace that are like, hey, I want a pad split, what do I set out to look for them to get into this? So what's the perfect profile of a house?
If you're looking to acquire an asset, right, versus converting an existing asset, I would focus on minimums of 3 2s.
Okay.
4 2s are ideal. No HOAs.
Yeah, no HOAs.
Strongly on no HOAs.
Right.
Yeah.
I think square footage, it's going to change, right? It's really, really going to be determined by your layout.
Right, of course.
So you'll be surprised. You can maybe do a lot with 1,200 square feet, but 1,500 square feet might be more than enough to actually maximize the space correctly.
Okay.
1 floor, 2 levels are great as well.
Okay.
Ample parking space, close
Parking.
to job sites, right?
Okay.
If you're only next to a Wendy's or a McDonald's, that's the profile of member that you're going to cater to.
Okay.
But if you're close to the parks, a good hospital or
Yeah.
universities, those are going to be the members who are going to be living in your house the most.
So are you guys going to see pad splitting out by the colleges?
We already have a couple near UCF.
You do?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
They've been pad splitting near colleges forever.
Right.
They've been
It's not
renting
new,
rooms
right?
forever. Yeah.
Now, we don't necessarily choose to cater towards students.
Okay.
Instead, faculty, people
Right.
that are cleaning, people that are servicing the students because they're the working force.
Right.
They're the ones that are generating that income and they're looking for that affordable housing.
and they're also a little
Responsible.
bit more. Yeah.
Right.
Tame.
I
They
will say
will
that's
take
the
care
number
of the
one question that
property.
I get. You probably get the same thing. Is like, oh my gosh, you're letting like all these transient kids in the house, and the demographic's actually a little bit older.
It's a little bit older.
Yeah, it's a little bit older.
Yeah. Well, that's nice because, I mean, you do get into that college housing and that can be
Party
eventful.
houses. Yeah.
Eventful.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. So, absolutely.
I'll give you examples. In one of my properties, I have a bus driver for Disney.
Perfect.
I have a couple operators that do operationals at Universal. So
Okay.
they probably do the buttons and stuff at the
Right.
rides or stuff
Yeah.
like that. I have a manager for a Hooters.
Okay.
I have a front desk a person from one of the hotels near one of my properties.
Okay.
That's the profile of people.
Well,
that will be
and
staying
then I
there.
wonder too, like, are you trying to focus on public transportation for your tenants?
Yeah, so in Central Florida, 60% of our members own vehicles.
Okay. So then you don't
Need to
necessarily,
provide all the parking spots, but because of that, then you want to be close to public transit. Like, don't go to Chuliota.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Because
There's not a lot of movement over there.
Yeah. Okay.
But Oviedo, perfect.
I have a house in Chuliota that we're pad
It
splitting.
was not. You do?
I really do.
Seriously?
I really do.
No, I
But it's
meant, I meant Christmas.
It's only
I meant
outskirts
Christmas.
of Oviedo. It's
You're in
it's
Christmas?
a good
No,
spot.
I'm not in
Oh.
Christmas.
No,
but
it's-
don't go to Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, Chuliota actually growing a lot. So no,
It
I take
is-
that back.
Listen,
I take that
I'm
back.
right on the outskirts of Oviedo.
No,
I
I
wouldn't
take
have
that
bought
back.
it if I didn't
That's
think
so
it was
funny.
a good deal.
I take it back.
Oh,
It's not. I
great.
meant Christmas.
I'm in the
I'm
middle.
delisting this one. I'm delisting it. I'm taking it off the platform.
Tell me, because in real estate, like, I've absolutely walked in on people having sex. Like, there's just, I mean, people, you're walking into people's like living spaces. So what is something funny, unusual that you have encountered through pad splitting? Because
David, you got this.
I'm still really green, okay? So I probably don't have the great stories or anything yet, but just most recently. So we use digital locks on all of the door locks, right?
On the bedroom door locks or
Yes.
on the main door lock?
Both.
Okay.
On both.
Okay. So you do have a digital door lock
Yeah, so
on
like
your door.
privacy, security, we like go above and beyond again, like the amenities here. PadSplit's doing a good job at trying to get the hosts, investors like us to provide quality housing.
Okay.
So that way you keep your tenants longer, right?
Okay.
You keep your members longer. This isn't a slumlord thing. This isn't a cash grab. Like this is an actual solution to a problem. So PadSplit does a really good job.
Okay.
Well, needless to say, so this is a recommendation. We do the door locks, right?
Yep.
There's a feature that you can swipe on the inside of the room that locks it, and the only way to unlock it is with the key.
From the
Okay.
inside.
You can unlock it from the outside with the key, but the only way to unlock it from the outside is with the key, and it's
Got
called
it.
Secure Lock.
Okay.
So every lock has the secure lock capabilities, and this person has locked themselves out of the house and out of the room more than once. So most recently, I just had to hire a locksmith for the third time, and this time they had to actually drill through that digital lock to replace it with a key and regular.
Okay.
Just so the lady, but this took 3.5 hours of an ordeal on my Saturday
bet.
morning.
I bet.
Because she went to go to the bathroom, and instead of having to punch her code in, she thought she could just swipe this little button and then walk right back in, and that just was not the case.
She was locked out for 3.5 hours.
She was locked out for 3 hours while we were coordinating and troubleshooting and calling the locksmith and getting them there, and the other members are messaging and calling because her phone's in the bedroom. So it became a little bit of an ordeal. So again, it's not a funny story, but it
they're
is.
helpful with each other.
It is, yeah. I mean,
They're there
the
to help
members
each other.
bonded, so that
You
was
know,
good.
when was that?
This was literally Saturday morning.
Oh.
I think you were texting me when I was in the middle of.
Well, I think an employee of mine said she was locked out of her house. And
This is in Ormond Beach, so I don't
okay,
think
that's
your
not
employee's out
mine.
in
But
Ormond.
I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know where you are. And
that mine?
her phone was inside supposedly. And now
Yeah.
you're just, it's kind of like,
Too familiar.
I've heard this story.
I just threw somebody under the bus. I
Too
apologize.
I've
familiar.
heard the story, but yeah. But you know what? She said she was walking her little dog. So
There you
that
go.
you don't allow dogs. It's not a service dog.
I'm
So,
sure Arianna has a better story
So
or two.
what has
that's
been
personal than mine.
funny.
So we had a member locked themselves out.
Seems to be a common theme here.
It's
the
gonna be, yeah,
lockouts.
for sure.
I don't know if it's because they're not like tech savvy or maybe the locks are not. I think they're friendly. I don't know what it is. But
You're
she-
also probably not used to locking yourself in and
You're
out
right.
of your
You
bedroom.
don't think about it,
right?
right?
So it's
You're
a
just
new,
like, oh.
got to train yourself.
You're right. So she got herself locked out, calls, hey, can you help me? We're trying to figure it out, how to open the door for her. She's like, okay, I'll be back. I'm just going to grab something to eat, and we'll talk later. Cool. We're trying to figure it out, how we can get out to the property sooner and kind of work that out for her. She calls. She's like, hey, I'm back in. I'm like, oh, what happened? How did you get in? She's like, someone broke the window and I'm inside now. And we're like,
Convenient.
and we're like, oh, someone broke the window, huh?
someone just
Is
a random-
everything okay though? She's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm inside. And we're
Yeah.
like, oh.
So let's talk about breaking windows and getting locked out. Like,
did it.
are there fees involved with this? Does it come out of your deposit? Are there cameras on the exterior of the property?
So as a host, you choose to have cameras or not.
Okay. And then disclose it, right?
Yes, outside.
Yeah.
And we encourage that. Do you have those?
Yes.
Okay, we do too. Like, they're so useful.
Sure.
So they do not have a deposit. They have a flat move-in fee.
Okay.
Because deposits, they comes like with a refundability issue and like, call a lot of legal situations behind it. So
Okay.
we decided to just
So pause on
a
that.
flat fee.
No deposit, because if people are looking for this and are interested
Right.
in it, there is no deposit. So that move-in
It's
is
a move-in fee.
easy.
Right, it's a move-in fee.
Okay, a
correct.
move-in
And the host,
Yeah.
so David would choose to price that out at whatever.
Okay.
When
What's
we
an
first-
average move-in fee?
That's a great question, because when I first launched my first property, I had the move-in fee for every room at $99.
Oh, wow.
And I only got one move-in in the first 8 days. And I was like, let me lower this. And so
Yeah.
then for the market, because it was Ormond Beach, I lowered the move-in fees to $49.
Wow.
I filled up 2 more rooms. They sat for, and then the 4th room sat for, I think, 2 weeks. And I was
longer.
like, man, this is, and it's also pricing the market because there's
Right.
no pad splits in Ormond. So I was one of the first. And so then I lowered the move-in fee to 0 and filled the room right up.
Okay. So those are really, you're not getting cash rich off of your move-in fees.
No.
It's like a lever that you have to kind of, pull strings on pricing more than anything.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I bait this person in to pay this per week or per month for the room if it's a lower entry?
Are they paying per week?
Yeah.
Now, can they, since you said it's 30 days plus one, right, for the rental term.
Correct.
After that 30 days, can they go weekly?
So they're always weekly.
They're always
payment,
weekly.
yeah.
They're always weekly. So we are aligning with their pay structure. And most people
Okay.
get paid weekly or biweekly.
Okay.
So they paid so the fees are weekly, but they choose to pay weekly or biweekly.
Okay.
So if I were to rent David's room,
Yeah.
I would tell David, hey, David, I'm choosing biweekly.
Right.
Because that's how I get paid, and
Sure.
it's just
That's
easier
how I get
for me.
paid.
So Patsy will collect from me biweekly.
Okay.
But you can choose to say, I'm paying weekly.
Right.
But the
Okay.
rates are weekly.
And the rates are advertised weekly.
Okay.
So the rates are weekly, correct.
So that's easy. Now, when we were off, you kind of talked about another funny story that I think it's funny because from being in real estate, I mean, you do get to see like, don't tell my wife I have that on my credit, or don't do this, or
Right.
you know. So we get to see a lot. So what was that other funny story you shared?
Yeah, so I had to ask my first person to vacate. So I sent my first notice to vacate. The guy was just, he was one of the guys you give an inch, he takes a mile.
Yep.
So I tested the waters a few times with some of his requests, and they just started to get a little out of hand. And I checked them once or twice, and he just tried me one more time, and I was like, all right, man, you got to go. So when it was time for him to move, I requested the move-out photos, and I was like, these look an awful lot like the photos that I submitted in the listing. So I wanted to get out there and make sure that there was no, damage, and those weren't the same photos. So
Screenshot the photos.
right, literally. So I get out there and I'm like putting the code in, and it's not working, it's not responding. One of the other members in the house wanted to take over that room since he left, and I'm like, yeah, here's the code, get in there. And she's like, it's not working. I'm like, you're joking, right? So it's an hour and 20 minutes for me to drive
Right.
from here to there. So I'm doing anything I can to not. Well, anyways, I have to end up going. So I get there. The batteries are dead. I swear the guy changed the batteries. They weren't even the same ones that we put in the unit. So I can't get into this thing. So I'm scratching my head like, of course I don't have the spare key. Like, why would I have the spare key on me, right?
I bet you carry it now.
Oh, yeah. We're installing lock boxes on the back of each house
Yes.
with each room with
Love
the
it.
spare keys, so that if this ever happens again,
Someone
no
can
property
get to
manager,
it.
no boots
Yeah.
on the ground, they can just walk around back, get their key, unlock their door, and put it back. So
So they're each individual lock boxes, though. You're not going to put all of them in
correct.
one. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to give room 2's code to room 3,
Right,
and they
right.
can get in there and
Right.
mess around. It's like they're going to
I
steal the
love
TV
that.
because it's ours anyways. But
Right.
no, but what this guy ended up, I'm scratching my head, and I said, okay, like I'm all the way here. I've got to figure something out. I go to Ace Hardware. I buy a Phillips head screwdriver and a hammer. And the way the hinges were, this was an outswing door, so the hinges were on the outside. So I popped all the hinges off. The deadbolt's still in the frame, mind you. So I'm prying this door. I crack the frame a little bit. I get the door off, swap the batteries, and then I have to put the door back on the hinges. But the
How
good
was the
news
room?
is the room was fine.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, got
There you go.
So it's just, that's the things that I guess they
Good.
don't prepare you for.
Well,
Right.
and
You
I
know?
was going to say, that kind of goes into sometimes we've seen accidental landlords, right? Where they've bought and then they get a job transfer and they're just not in the position to sell or buy or whatever the case may be. And they fall into the space of an accidental landlord. And that stuff is real. These things happen. Right. ACs break, roofs need to be replaced. Right. Things happen to these homes that you have to be able to manage. And so I don't know that being an investor is for everybody, at least my opinion, just because I see that accidental landlord, because I think you do have to be prepared for that hour and 20-minute drive. And then, I've got to be resourceful. How am I getting in there? Because the longer you leave it locked, the longer you're not getting paid. Right. So I think that's important to... It may not be for everybody to pad split, but it might be for you. So what else do you guys want to share about pad splitting?
It's not as scary as it sounds. I think people get the idea of co-living and they're like, oh my God, this many people in one house.
I mean, you're co-living in a hotel, folks.
You're right.
You really are.
If you've ever lived in an apartment complex, you're
co-living there.
You're walking up and down the stairs next to people, and sure, you're not sharing, the kitchen and the bathrooms with those people. So I mean, yes, it's a little different, but the density of being around that many people living in a location, I'd say it's not as scary as you think.
And it's a solution to a temporary issue, right? So it doesn't have to be permanent.
You're right. And you'll be surprised how many people end up creating community within their properties.
Sure.
We delivered food for Thanksgiving to our members.
Oh.
Right. We have seen other hosts deliver monthly pizza. And they kind of have a nice community. Or we saw a video of someone post on TikTok of a member. They were cooking a meal for each other.
Right.
So you're going to find a lot of community being built within those houses as well.
Which is nice.
Which is really nice.
Yeah. So let's talk about the platform because we've talked about pad splitting. We've talked about investors doing it, but let's talk about the platform and how easy it would be to download an app or whatever the case may be so that the consumer, the tenant, can go find a room for rent. Let's say tomorrow I need to stay somewhere for a month. Just me, not my kids or my husband, just me. What do I do?
Padsplit.com.
Okay. We'll include that link.
Become a member, and you're going to be able to just find what's available. You're not going to see what's not available.
Do I pay to become a member?
Yes, it is a $29 fee to be qualified by us.
Okay.
If you get qualified, now you're going to be able to see what's available.
Okay.
Now, of course, you're going to be able to see what's in your budget.
Okay. So I'm going to enter, I want to spend $500 to $1,500 a month.
And whatever you're going to be qualified for, you're going to have access to.
Awesome. And this is all on an app or it's just a website?
We have a website and an app.
Okay.
For members, we are working on improving our app for our hosts.
Okay.
But right now, our biggest focus has been on the member app side.
So like Airbnb, are there reviews for different hosts? Because when I go to look for an Airbnb, I'm absolutely reading
checking
reviews.
every single one of them. Me too.
And then I guess one other thing, because I'm thinking Airbnb, are my forks there?
Every host will choose that, right? So
I know that's a very specific thing, but like, am I bringing forks and knives?
I mean, I put cups, bowls, plates. I put the first round of cleaning supplies for the members.
Every different host is so differently thoughtful.
Okay.
Right? Like David will provide everything. I will have a host that has provided the bare minimum.
Okay.
Linens and sheets, you will be responsible for that.
Okay.
And that's you, the member, I mean, not the investor.
Yeah. So, and that's across the board. You're not providing sheets and blankets.
No.
Which I think it sounds weird, but then I go back to you've stayed in a hotel, you know?
Right.
Somebody else stayed in that room last night.
That's right.
Like, so you think it's weird to be in somebody else's sheets, but I promise you've done it. So, okay. So I go on there, I fill out an application.
Correct.
Is it a monthly fee?
No, it's just a one-time $29 fee, and you'll get qualified.
Awesome.
And it's so simple.
It's so simple.
It's so straightforward and simple. And you're going to continuously see new rooms being available because as we have grown so much, you're just going to see new inventory.
I love it.
On a weekly basis, we're onboarding like 200 units.
Well, and here's the thing to think about, too, that I think a lot of people in our space are neglecting to keep in perspective, which is how much multifamily development is happening in the state of Florida, but also Central Florida.
A ton.
Not only is multifamily development high, but there's a high-rise in downtown Orlando that's committed like half of their apartments to co-living. So this is
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So this is a very, very big trend that the large developers are catching up on.
Yeah.
And it's no different than the DRs and the Lennars doing their build for rent communities.
Right.
The affordability issue, I think, is here to stay for a little while.
Yeah.
And the big players are getting ahead of it. And so you're seeing it, and I think Pat's what's really good. They say you're making multifamily returns with single-family houses.
Right.
That's the best way to bridge this gap.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a need for a while here for this.
Right. And I think just to touch on what you said, because I don't think everybody knows it, that DR and everybody doing communities for rent, meaning an entire HOA will not be for sale. It will be for rent. And that's a whole nother podcast for another day. Right. But that is in existence. That is coming. So this isn't unheard of to have this co-living because it's just another way to make affordable housing. Right. Yeah. Well, I thank you both for being on this. And it has been so enlightening. And I am so glad that I get to be part of you guys' story. So till next time. And thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.